Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Danielle Roy, and I am here to introduce the most incredible panel. So thank you for making the time. This is going to be a great session. Would love to hear from you. There will be a chance for some audience Q&A as well. But without further ado, let's get started. So today's session is all about why employee growth and happiness is great for business. And there certainly is a profitability model. I know that's our theme for the year. So we're going to get into that and why this matters, especially in 2024. The agenda today is going to go through a series of just intros, some data and statistics. Who doesn't love science, right? To back us up on why this is important. We're going to talk about the best boss, which is a great metric to ask to future employees. I'm going to share some of my personal research and some of our panel's research on why this is a great question to ask. We're going to have a very robust group discussion. We're going to ask our panelists lots of interesting questions and give you a chance to ask them some questions as well. So introducing our panel, so myself, my name is Danielle Roy. I am the founder and business consulting for Morale Matters, specializing in operations, HR, sales, and marketing. And I've been in this industry about 20 years. We're from a family business as well. We have 14 restaurants in our family and have worked in this industry almost 20 years. Zack Oates is our amazing tech wizard here in that amazing pizza shirt, and not he sucks.
I didn't know this.
Zack is the founder and CEO of Ovation. Who in here uses Ovation? It's been such a hot topic. If you aren't using this platform, you should. And we're going to talk about some benefits there and how this really is amazing for the guest experience and for your own data metrics and profitability growth. For our hospitality operators, you've got some amazing bios here that I'll let you read, but just some interesting things about our three hospitality operators here. We have Morgan Dillon right here in the middle. Morgan has a robust restaurant experience. She has worked in only restaurants and had an incredible journey starting with Hillstone Group. As many of you know, they're kind of the gold standard here for training, for development, for retention, and just incredible SOPs or standard operating procedures. She now runs 11 plus F&B locations in Dallas at the Village, and she's the VP of Food and Beverage there at the Village in Dallas. We've got Fritz Brogan here.
I applaud the audience so here.
So Fritz has a great resume in the hospitality industry. Also, I think everyone here really has proven that they're the experts here on the panel. So Fritz owns and operates Mission Group, which has 6 restaurants and hospitality venues in the Washington, D.C. area. The smallest venue is around 6,300 square feet, is that right? And the largest 12,000 plus. So some pretty big businesses do all kinds of music, events, nightlife, and it's really fun places to be in Washington, D.C. And last but not least, we have Ebony Austin, who is, yes, she's so lovely, personally and professionally, but she's going to share some truly innovative tactics that she's using to connect with the community and really just start a trend, start a movement. Restaurants are in the Atlanta, Georgia location, more coming, so very, very exciting expansion. And she also has a wonderful brand that is going into over 300 grocery stores this year. So please give a warm hand for all of our panelists. So starting off on why this is important. So let's look at just some data and statistics. Turnover. 10% is considered a healthy turnover rate for a business. 47% has been the average turnover rate in the last 3 years. So I realize we're coming out of a pandemic, right? There's some different economic factors, but that is the average now when we really should be trending at 10%. The hospitality industry has between 70 to 80% turnover rate. So pretty different, right? Some more statistics. So the December, so this is post-pandemic, we're 3+ years after, right? But the 2023 in December quit rate was 4.3% higher in the hospitality industry than all other industries. This is not a problem that is only pandemic related, as the data shows. The cost is that an employee that quits before 1 year will cost a company between 40 and 300% of a full-time employee's annualized pay. So you factor in, the cost to host a job, for someone to interview, to train, and to get that person up to the par of the previous person, it's quite costly to a company. 25 to 60% of people quit within 6 months. It's pretty drastic, right? And the perception, this is where the gap lies, is that 80% of leaders, including owners, operators, and managers, feel that when an employee quits, they have been offered more money elsewhere, but only 12% of the time is that actually true. Pretty big gap, right? So how do we get on that same page? How do we retain our employees? How do we learn to become dollar smart, not penny foolish? So let's look first, what makes a hospitality business successful? You gotta have your business plan, your viability, your financial metrics, your data, your tracking, your systems, processes, what many of us refer to as our SOPs or standard operating procedures. Sales marketing, right? Gotta have a healthy budget for that. Hospitality and customer engagement, and last but not least, employee efficiency, productivity, and engagement. So this does go into what makes a hospitality business successful, and it's absolutely crucial to a business's long-term growth. Now I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to turn it to Fritz, because we found that we share this in common, that we ask this question: what makes someone a best boss? So I'm going to let all of you think about that. So think about the best boss that you've ever had. What were a couple qualities that made that person a great boss? Fritz, what's been your experience in asking this?
Yes, this is a really important question we ask all applicants in mission group. Obviously, we ask other things, but we want to see what their kind of analysis and how they think is. We always ask them, who's the best person to work for? Who's the worst person to work for? There's really no right or wrong answer. We just want to see the analysis. We're a manager saying, "Stop, we did this or did that." The answer we don't want to see are like, "Oh, the guy I'm late every day and the guy yelled at me," or something like that. That's a response we don't want to get. But we think it's really important when you interview someone to fully understand what their thought analysis is and make sure they understand their this is their joy. We think this is a great question. Kind of go beyond and understand why someone's joining our company.
Absolutely. Does anyone want to shout it out? Just a couple things, quick things that make someone a best boss.
Good listening. Communication.
Empathy. Engagement.
Understanding.
Yes, to understanding.
Being able to put yourself in that person's shoes.
Absolutely. Passionate. I love it.
What about pay you well? Yeah, that's a good boss.
That's good.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, I have personally asked this question to over 5,000 people. And why I bring this up is I thought that it was so interesting. It wasn't, a plan to ask this. It was just something I kind of asked as a leader. And I noticed that every single person said one of 3 things. They might use different language to describe these things, but every person. I'm talking, I need a high school mentorship group. High school students were saying this. College, university, students who are recent graduates, and people all the way up to the age of 76 said the same 3 things. What are those 3 things? And if we can crack that code and become great inspirational leaders, this is where the magic happens. And I'm so proud to be on a panel with 4 incredible inspirational leaders. So first off, before we get into the 3 things, we're just going to look at the difference between motivation versus inspiration, because these two terms are used interchangeably often, but they're in fact quite different. Motivation is short-term. You can motivate someone by money, by status, by great schedule, great pay, but it will never truly inspire them to take ownership of their role. and to make it part of who they are. Inspiration, it actually means spontaneous spirit. So it's based on values, life experiences, aspirations. It's everlasting. So you can find a way to inspire your team and learn what not only motivates them, but inspires them. Some real magic. So the three things that every person said, but sometimes use different language for. Leading by example. You heard someone willing, to be in the trenches. Wouldn't ask someone to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. Has that experience, right? That expertise. Emotional intelligence. Men, and as you said, compassion, understanding, active listening, trustworthy, respect. These all fall into the bucket of having a high level of emotional intelligence. And lastly, empowerment. So people say, I want to be challenged. I want to learn. I don't want to be micromanaged. That's a common one. This is all different terms for empowerment. Support without removing responsibility, challenging someone. So now we're going to get into our panel. So two questions that I like to ask. First Morgan and then Fritz. How does alignment with leadership contribute to profitability and overall success of a business? And what are the best practices you have seen in some of the businesses that you have worked with to ensure clarity and alignment?
So, with the alignment piece, good service is different to everyone, right? So maybe it's about speed, about attentiveness, about the energy in the room, the lighting, the sound. Somebody might want light music or loud music, someone else won't, lights too bright, lights too dark. So I think what's really important is that aligning on that as a leadership team to ensure that your team truly knows what the right answer is, and then you turn that into a system. Right, you program your lights, you program your music, and you decide what are your mountains that you're going to die on. Like, what don't you change no matter what, because that's the culture, the venue, the energy, in your restaurant or your bar, club, or whatever. And I think there's maybe 70 to 80% of things that we have to do on a daily basis that can be systematized. But then there's that 20%, like those gray areas, right, about the feeling, the personality, and I think using that 20 to 30% to really allow the team to be creative, have that person's touch on the service that they're giving, empower them to, make a change or suggest something or maybe do something you wouldn't usually do because you can. That's kind of my philosophy on it and how I try to manage teams and operate the businesses.
Fritz, what are your thoughts?
For sure. So when someone joins our company, they're not just joining Mission Group, they're joining the lifestyle that we provide. So we run, huge restaurants and bars, loud music outside of stadiums, wild party spots. So when people apply for us, we want to make sure they understand what they're getting themselves into. So work at Mission Group, either one, to be a customer. So we hire within our customers. We advertise all of our restaurants. If you like this restaurant, come work here. All of our managers get a business card. They give them out every day. They get to the customers and say, you like this place, come work here. Or you have to be referred by one of our staff members. We find the referral program to be extremely important. Most people out there will not hire someone they don't want to work with, so they're going to recruit people that they like, or teamwork people and want to make a fun environment. So we find the referral system is great. It's basically instant verification before you hire someone. We want to make sure someone can understand what they're getting themselves into, because our customers are our staff, and our staff are our customers. I know we'll get into it in a little bit. We give all of our employees a huge employee discount. I know a lot of restaurants are kind of scared about doing that. People who spend their entire paychecks in our restaurants their day off. We love it. Makes the place busy. It's fun. They bring their boyfriends, girlfriends, significant others. They creates a base crowd. We have huge places. We love that. The best thing we do is see our staff come and party on the nights off. It shows that they're having a great time. They love the brand. They live the brand.
I love it. This is such a great question. I actually want to ask our other panelists as well. So, Zack.
So one of the things that we do at Ovation is we do give an ovation. So every single month, everyone gets a bonus that they have to give. Okay, so think about this. If what we do is we send out a form and it says who deserves an ovation this month, and they have to name someone, say what they did, say what ovation value they exhibited, and then in the all hands meeting, I read off who gave whom their ovation for what. And it's a really cool thing. And then you either, when we were in person, now we do it virtually, when we were in person, we literally, I would just have like a stack of, and by the way, we're not talking like $1,000 a month. We're talking $20 a month, right? So I just give them a bill, and they can either use that bill to they would keep it, or they would put it in a pot, and then we would spin a giant wheel and we would, you could like win the pot. Now we do that all virtually, but it's still fun, and it's a way to express gratitude for each other. It's a way to get everyone engaged. It's a way for people to catch each other doing good, because it's so easy to catch each other doing something wrong and nitpick about stuff. So this gives at least once a month, everyone knows that they can say thank you publicly in front of the whole company to somebody else. And yeah, I have my entire company do this, and it takes 20 minutes to read off every single person. But it's so worth it because it just creates that culture of gratitude from within. And, we have had one person quit in the last 3 years.
That's impressive. That's incredible. Ebony, what are your best practices?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's empowering my team, letting them know that they have the power to empower other people that's on our team as well. And opening Nouveau, I always said that I wanted to be the cheers in the community, and I stood by that. So if you can think about Nouveau, they think about cheers with a twist, right? So for me, my leadership, they plan what Valentine's Day look like. They plan what Christmas looks like. They plan what Easter looks like. They plan what our team building events look like for me. And so that point, they're able to train the next person to be able to take their place. So for me, work doesn't feel like work, right? Work feels like family. Work feels like an event every single day. Nouveau is about an experience. And we make sure that our team create that every single day, every single time.
Wow, I want to go to all of these places now. I wish I could in all of yours. So company culture. So this is so important. I know we touched on this a little bit. So how do you create a positive and productive company culture? And is there such thing as a good work-life balance in our industry? And if so, what does that look like? So Fritz, let me pass this one to you.
I think the industry has changed so much. So I started as an 18-year-old doorman, 21 years ago, and it's a much rougher industry. People worked all the time, expected to work 12, 14, 16-hour days, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and that was it. If you worked in the industry, that's what you did. Obviously, things have changed, society has changed, the way the young people look at the industry has changed. So we're really important to try to get managers 2 days off every single week in a row. Make sure that we're obviously going to the nightlife business, so we make sure the same manager never closes 2 weekends in a row. So if you're the 4 a.m. manager 1 week, next week you're the opening manager, so get some time off. We kind of found that it's really important to do those things, and yes, it costs a little bit more, and yes, we get to have more managers. The people stay for a long time, they really like what they're doing. It's super important. We don't want jaded bartenders, we don't want burnt out managers. So make sure people are happy every day and come into work and be able to give you their all. It's worth it all.
Who wants an unhappy bartender, right? No one wants someone crying in their dream. So no, that's a great tip. Morgan, I know we discussed toxic chef culture, right? Who's been in the industry for 10 plus years? Show hands. Most of us, right? So many of you remember toxic chef culture, and that's not the way to do business anymore and how to retain people. So Morgan, can you touch on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It came up in one of our conversations as we were talking about the panel, and you watched Gordon Ramsay's shows. Even the first season of The Bear is kind of the one that resonated the most for me, and it's almost highlighted in the media. And people who've never worked in restaurants, like when they learn to say behind you or on your back, they get all excited because they know the lingo, but they haven't really done it. I mean, I feel like it's shows like that demonstrate this toxic chef culture where you're getting cursed at, screamed at, kicked out. Everyone in the kitchen's doing drugs. They're not representative of our industry. And it's tough when we're competing with all of these other industries, especially in the retention piece. But there's so many different channels that are creating this alternate and often incorrect perception of what it is that we're doing. And then we want to turn it into a career for people, right? Whether it's a serving position, a line cook position, but things like that make it really tough. And I'm over it. Our chefs, do not yell, do not curse. Speak kindly to one another. Say thank you. That's the standard, and as operators, I think we need to continue to stress that to change the perception.
It's the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. So important, and it's a simple thing, but that's really the culture that we want to create, because that's a culture that people feel respected in and want to come back to.
And I think it's also important with that culture, just one quick thing is that, yes, there's the golden rule, but also there's the platinum rule, right? And one thing that we have to realize is that when you have someone that comes in who is 16 versus someone that comes into work for you who's 50, they're looking for very different things. And so the golden rule is treat others as you would want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others as they want to be treated, right? So think about how do you speak to this person as this individual, not as just like a Gen Zer who's good for nothing, right? But like, what are they doing? They can do more than just TikTok, but like let them do TikTok for you, right? Like there's so many wonderful things that you can harness from each individual, but it's about, first of all, knowing the people that are reporting to you and encouraging them to know the people that report to them. And that way you can treat them and they can treat their staff as they want to be treated. We're not talking like mollycoddling them, like everyone needs to work hard, but it's about making sure that they understand where they fit into the bigger picture and how they are important. Because at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants to feel, right? They want to feel important.
Absolutely. It's about holding our teams capable versus accountable. You know, I know people, it can reach a point where people do need to be held accountable, but let's hold them capable first, and most will rise to the occasion. So in terms of recruiting and retention, how do you stay competitive when hiring new employees? And also, how do you keep existing employees happy and productive? So for the first one, Fritz, I'll let you take number one.
Sure. It goes back to what I said earlier. It's all about creating this kind of fun lifestyle and culture. People come to work for us, not just a paycheck, but they make great tips. It's just this crazy fun environment. People are meeting their friends, meeting their roommates, being lifelong friends. It's kind of this environment they want to be in. So two things we do: we give the employee discount. Every employee is a minimum of 50%, going up to 75% for leaders and senior management. We also do things like we call it the competitive feedback program. So we'll pick the employee of the month. That's what you do. We're actually paying them to go to one of our competitors. They have to write a memo to us like, what is it going to do better than us? What do we do better than them? If they have better music, they have better happy hour, they have this and that. So we get really interesting feedback. We're helping break it out with their friends. We're also getting really great feedback from our competitors. And it's a great thing that we do. I kind of encourage everyone to do that. Like send your employees to your neighboring places. I guarantee you there's one idea that they're either doing really well, or they're doing something that's really bad. You want to make sure you're not doing that.
So win-win for all, right? You get that data, but also your employees win too. Ebony, you are bringing in some really, really interesting and innovative ideas on keeping existing employees happy and productive. So will you share with the audience what you're doing?
Absolutely. I think the first thing is making your employees feel like family, right? Everyone wants to come to work and feel safe. They want to feel warm. They want to feel comfortable. So I do a lot of team building with my team. Also, I do a lot of different rewards at the end. So they might get bonuses, and I might pick a random 15 people that might get a $1,500 bonus or $2,000 bonus. But I also will pick a time where I might send a family to Disney World, or I might take my entire team to Miami. Whatever that looks like in their happiness, I make sure that I support them, because ultimately they're what keeps Nouveau in a great place. They're what keep people coming back to us. So you have to make sure that your team is happy, and you have to make sure that they feel appreciated, because that's the worst thing in the world, to work for a company and never feel appreciated. Thank you only goes so far for me. Like, I want you to understand how grateful I am. And I use that term a lot in my restaurant, because I'm truly grateful. I tell people all the time, I feel that God kind of put my team together, because they know me, they understand me. And my team, we do a lot of community efforts. So we go out and take food truck and feed the homeless. We do big Christmas events where we give out toys, we give out PlayStation, we give out scholarships. We've given out over $1 million in scholarships. So for me, it's keeping my team involved and letting them understand how important they are for me at that moment, and not just to me, how important they are to the community. So when I say that we are a Cheers, I mean that at 100%. We're the new Cheers with a twist.
Wow. Morgan, I know you're also offering some incredible benefits, and benefits it's a tricky subject in hospitality, right? It's not the classic Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, but you've seen incredible benefits when you have offered benefits to your team, right? So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, working for The Village, it's the first company I've worked for in my career that offers such a robust benefit package to all of our hourly team members, not just salary managers, right? And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that The Village was founded as a residential community. So a lot of the company culture and benefit structures were built when it was just residential, but it has transcended to all of our commercial businesses, which are now only about 3 years old. And whether it's, you know, the discounts on the apartments or the 401k matching after 90 days, like things like that, just it makes people take the job seriously because all of a sudden they have these things as a server, a bartender, a server assistant, a barback, a dishwasher, right? That they typically wouldn't be offered, and it's a step further than, you know, your medical, dental, vision. It's amazing, and I feel extremely fortunate to have that and be able to offer it to all of our team.
Zack, you have something incredibly fun called Tony Starking your employees. So can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we need to remember is that if you want to create great, happy employees, create happy guests. And that as you empower your employees to create wonderful experiences, that creates happier employees. It's a great virtuous cycle that's been proven over and over again in research. And things are getting tough, right? We've got this anti-profit cocktail going on, which is part inflation, where people are going out less, and part Ozempic, where people are eating less, right? So you have this like dangerous cocktail for restaurants. And so we need to make sure that our guests that are coming in are really happy. And so I call it Tony Stark because, you know, Iron Man, any comic fans out there? Okay, a couple. Well, you know, Iron Man is just Tony Stark in a suit, right? And so it's about leveraging technology, which is the suit, to empower Tony Stark, right, your employees, to do things better, to be the hero, right? Don't overburden them with technology that all of a sudden they're like, I didn't get into IT, I got into restaurants, right? But you need to have some technology out there, and with every piece of technology, the filter that you should look at it through is, number one, is this making our guest experience better? Number two, is this empowering our employees to make the guest experience better, right? And so that's why I talk about Tony Starking your employees, giving them the right technology to make them the heroes, and that creates happier employees.
Great answer. So now everyone's going to go watch Iron Man, right? So this next one is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I previously was responsible for talent development training from entry-level employees all the way up to our C-suite executives at RBC and Young's Market. I'm sure many of you have worked with them before, right? Very large wine and spirits distributor. So, you know, being responsible for training between 30 and 500 employees a month, I saw, you know, people previously coming from a company that did no training and development. I saw massive ownership and empowerment by taking the time to put together a training and development program. And I always recommend, you know, for even a smaller mid-sized business, it's so crucial. You don't want to neglect that, your standard operating procedures, but also teaching your team what that means, because it'll help reduce your liability. You know, we're here to mitigate risk as well. And that in turn will pay off dividends. So what best practices, Fritz, have you found beneficial in Mission Group for training and development?
Sure. So we started as a very small company. We've been going to the show for 7 years. It used to just be my two partners. We would come, just one or two restaurants, have a great time. We brought 13 of our executives today. What is really investing is training and development. It starts with the interview process. It used to be, you come in with the manager's running around, trying to get the restaurant ready to go, and doing a million other things. We would sit down for 5 minutes and have a bad interview. We kind of remove all that from the managers. We have a separate training and development team that will do those interviews so managers can focus on guest satisfaction 1 and 4. All the way through when people work for us because they're getting trained. And we're asking for training, they're taking tips training, they're doing all this stuff, kind of creating this environment and enjoying the professional workforce. And the more time we spend on training, we call them capos, which kind of our lead bartenders and servers. They'll take responsibility for the training program. They'll bring a report every day on how the training did. Do they show up on time? Do they have to be here? All these different things. We really invested a lot of time and money in training. It kind of took us from an okay bar company to maybe a very good, hopefully a great one-day bar company. And it's worth every dollar you spend in training. Our training team is back there in the back. You guys are the best. It's worth every dollar we spend time.
Ebony, what are your thoughts on training and development? I know this is a very important for your business too.
Absolutely. I do believe that in training, what we do is when we're bringing in new people, my goal is for you to be able to work in every department of your business. So we don't train in one area. So you might train at the host station, you might train as an expo, you might train as a server, you might train as a busser. I want you to understand every part of the restaurant because it's so important. Just by chance, if you're the MOD on duty and there's two other employees and maybe somebody's bartending and we need a server, I need somebody to be able to come out and serve those tables. So I think that if you're well educated on every aspect of the business, that's a win-win for the customers, that's a win-win for the business, because the goal is to create the same exact experience for all of our customers. And that's what we're known for. Nouveau is known for an experience. And so that if I can train one person how to do everything in a restaurant, that's a win for Nouveau.
Morgan, what are your thoughts before we ask Zack on the technology piece?
To touch on kind of a different part of the training and development cycle, like make sure training doesn't stop, right? Just because you passed your first round of training and you're now called a server, right? You're taking your own tables, you have your own section, creating, further opportunities for people to learn and grow, whether it's, cross training in another department, learning to work behind the bar, or, spending time in the kitchen with the chef, or just out, maybe it's not either of those. Maybe it's just something else that they're interested that they want to learn. I tell all of the managers who have like, if you have a 15-minute pre-service with your team every single day. If your team leaves that 15-minute pre-service and they don't learn something new, you're doing it wrong, right? It can't just be hey guys, these are service focus points, these are 12 things you're doing wrong, here's a good review of sales today, and the anticipated covers. But used it as a platform to teach people.
Zack, how can technology help both businesses and employees for training, development, and ongoing learning?
So I think it goes exactly what you're talking about, which is you have to train, but you have to track, right? We have these great, robust training programs, and then when we get to tracking, hey, how are we actually doing and accomplishing these? We rely on things like online reviews, right? And who here loves online reviews? Okay, one person. And we have long surveys. Raise your hand if you've taken a long survey in the last 30 days. No, everyone put your hands down. Like, everybody hates long surveys, right? And so it's ridiculous that that's how we're measuring how is our training working, or you can rely on revenue, which, by the way, I'm sorry, but is 4 or 5 months a lagging indicator of how you're doing today. By the time you're fixing it, by the time you see the dip in revenue because of a guest satisfaction or training, you're way behind the 8 ball. The game's over. And so what you want to do is you want to find good ways to track it. And so I grew up in restaurants, and that's actually why I started Ovation. Ovation, we do a 2-question survey to ask guests how was their experience. And if they had a great experience, we drive them to do things that are going to bring revenue into the business. If they don't have a great experience, then your team, with 2 clicks, can win that guest back and track when they come back. And then what we'll do is we break that down into 34 different categories so you know exactly what to fix where. How do you train? What do you train on? And when you train on that, do you have enough data so that the manager or your staff feels like, yeah, this has been a problem, right? You go to the one Yelp review and you're like, hey, last month you got a Yelp review with a complaint about order accuracy. Well, okay, that's not like enough to really show a trend. And so you need to have that, the trend so you can track and train and train and track. You can't just do one and you can't just do the other.
Great answer. So the last couple questions I'm going to ask before we open it up to the audience are, what are some best practices you've seen for performance reviews, and how do you offer paths for advancement? So I'll share my experience in the corporate world, as well as in small and mid-sized businesses. We are no longer the annual reviews. So millennials in particular, we found more than any other generation value feedback. So of course, this is not every single person who identifies as a millennial, but in general, this generation cares very much about feedback. So the annual performance reviews are now the biannual performance reviews. And these really should have certain metrics in terms of tracking. You should be asking your team, what do you want for your future? We should listen to that, right? We should give people IDPs or individual development plans to succeed. At RNDC, we did something called talent reviews. So this was the top 10 to 20% of people with each department at all levels who we would actually nominate and say, you are top talent for this year. And so they can put that on their resume. And being a part of that, you get assigned to a mentor. So that mentor wouldn't be your direct boss, but it would be someone who excels in the skills that that person needs to learn and improve to get to that next level. So we saw immense success in that, and we were able to retain mass amounts of employees just for having a mentor and being recognized and being a part of this program. So I'd love to hear, Fritz, let's kick it off on what your team is doing for advancement.
Sure. I think one of the things we try to instill in our managers is if you see something great going on or something you need to address, don't wait, the 30 to 60, 90-day review. Kind of have these immediate check-ins. We train our managers to have these kind of 5-minute check-ins with staff on a regular basis. Tell them they're doing right, tell them they're doing wrong, hear their ideas. We're all about hearing ideas. We encourage all of our employees to email us their ideas. We often don't follow them, but we read them all. And it makes them feel really good that they're not complaining to their friends. They can bring up their ideas. Some of them are great, some of them aren't. I think having that feedback loop is really important. Now, the advancement piece, we're really proud of everyone on our corporate team, started as a server, bartender, bouncer, whatever. Even our accounting folks who are here today, they started as servers and bartenders with us. Everyone in the company started at the ground level. Because you can't come to the restaurant business and say, oh, I worked in something else, now I'm going to train these servers and bartenders how the real world does it. Like, you have to understand our history. You have to work till 5 o'clock in the morning. You have to drag a drunk guy out the door. Whatever it is, like, where you meet business, you have to understand our business. And you want to manage people around.
Yeah, it's really giving that bit of critical feedback, but also the positive recognition. So whenever you do a review, right, you want to have at least one of each. Morgan, what do you do for advancement of the village? What have you seen?
One thing that it's not really a systematized procedure like an annual or biannual performance review, but it just came to mind now as we were just chatting. We have a ton of redevelopment projects going on. And that has led to a ton of cross training and internal promotions, and it's all come from the fact that we're so transparent. That hey, we're opening a day club this summer, we're completely revamping our sports bar, we're adding, sand volleyball and pickleball to a venue that before didn't happen. It's like, oh my god, this person was a pickleball coach, or this person used to work in a club doing bottle service, now she's working in our fine dining dinner service restaurant. But none of those conversations, would have come up if we didn't share what was happening, and then you meet with them and you realize, heck yeah, I don't have to go out and recruit for this position. Empower someone and promote, the people who work for us and believe in what we're doing. So
Yeah, I'd like to touch on, so if you do implement a top talent type of review, these are for the people that are actively trying to get promoted. It's still important to have the conversations, but setting goals, it doesn't have to be getting promoted. It could be this person, bettering their wine knowledge. It could be really excelling and making more tips, or sales that year. So giving a path to success that's not necessarily promoted, because that's not the goal for everyone. So how do we motivate and inspire people on all levels and in all walks? Zack?
So one thing I think is really important is making sure that your leaders have the framework to give feedback. So one of the great frameworks is fact, impact, and act, right? So fact, this is what happened. Impact, as a result of that, because this happened, here's what happened as a result, and then action. So I need you to do this. Does that sound like a good plan? And so having that framework really makes it not as scary to have those critical feedback discussions. And so training your people on how to have that, because everyone knows how to give a compliment, right? Everyone knows how to say, oh, good job. But it's not having that framework and feeling like, how do I say this in a way that's not going to offend people, not going to make this contentious? And we found that the fact, impact, act framework works really well to do that.
Yes, that's a great one. STAR and STAR AR feedback is another great one. So I would recommend both frameworks, whatever is the best fit for you. Ebony?
I think for me, it's being able to coach your team in the moment, but also being able to celebrate your team in the moment as well. We think about advancement. I want to know what my team goals are. So when they're coming into Nouveau, I personally sit back and talk to my team. What do you see yourself 6 months from now? How do we help you get there 6 months from now? I have people that started as a host that are now managers at Nouveau. So for me, I want to see you grow. I only want to hire people that want to grow in the company. Because if I hire someone that's comfortable just being a host, that's not beneficial for me. That's not beneficial for them either. So my goal is to make sure that we're empowering, but also make sure that we're changing the lives of our employees as well. And so for me, that's coaching in the moment. anyone would appreciate if I see you doing something that might not be correct at that moment, coming back and saying, hey, this is how you could have done X, Y, and Z. So we're just making sure that as we're coaching in the moment, we're also celebrating it as well.
Absolutely. And we all make the world a better place this way, right? So we have a couple more minutes for audience questions. So what are your burning questions? How can the team support you? We've got Mike here. Our first question.
I'm a millennial manager, also a J Rule alum. I have been managing for about 10 years, and my subordinates have been older than me, my peers have been older than me. I'm definitely having difficulty reaching Gen Z and figuring out how to work best for them. So any pointers or suggestions, not only for Gen Z, but the upcoming generation below them, how do I navigate the younger generations?
I can answer that one, and I'll open it to the panel as well. So Generation Z, there's actually been some trends that Generation Z cares about social impact and purpose more than anything. So it's really promoting the mission, vision, values, and the purpose to the team. Purpose, social responsibility, I know it sounds like a big word, but really it's just team building. You know, Ebony's given some great pointers on, hey, we cook meals for the homeless, right? Or we volunteered at this dog shelter, some sort of purpose and impact. Just tend to work with Generation Z in particular. And I can empathize with having a lot of people older than you too. I've managed quite a few, 60 plus, so I hope that helps. Any other pointers, team?
I think it's really important to set the framework of kind of what you want your managed style to be. It's like our company, we're very strict on here's the mission, we're going to do everything. We want to operate really high volume, really fun nightclubs, and people of all ages work for us, come from all backgrounds, all countries, everything else. They all want to buy into that lifestyle. So once they buy, it doesn't matter if they're 19 or if they're 59. They kind of want to be in that environment. You can have everyone aligned towards the same goal. Doesn't matter how old they are, they're all working towards the same vision.
Any other questions in the back?
Call out.
The question is, how do we go about attendance and call outs, right?
For people that are like calling out when they're supposed to be there or sick.
Have a very good attendance policy in your employee handbook. I can help you with that. So what recommendations do you have?
So having the policy is really important. We have this policy, we call it the intro policy. And if there's a problem with the company, you're not letting text the manager, call a manager, Snapchat manager, whatever it is, you have to email info. There's companies who want to do that. One, it's kind of stored in the cloud. There's whatever issues going on, we can seek it out and say, well, you were late 17 times, so that's why you're being separated. But also, it sort of helps if it's your day off. And they're texting you, well, Danielle, I'm sick, I don't want to work today, it's your day off. And you're like, I got to find who's working and do all this stuff. Info goes to all of our management team. So any kind of problem, whether they're sick or they're calling out, whatever it is, it goes to everyone. And it goes to protect our manager, it's your day off. You're not getting texts because your social media whatever blown up by staff. It's going to someone else, and it's always being recorded. So, like, we train people don't text our managers, email info.
So having that procedure in place as well as this is how you call out, this is how many X amount of hours, in advance of what the consequences look like, right? If they don't meet those standards.
There's always a lot of the Irish flu going around in this business. That'll never change.
One more question that we have time for. Anyone? Yes?
I'm a general manager and very close to my staff. They recently purchased the restaurant. And I'm looking at my staff different. Trying to figure out what would be the kind of advice can I give to maybe not distance from the staff, but let them know I'm like
The higher level of authority, right? Yes. Right. So I've personally been through that where you're the peer level, you weren't peer level, you had that authority as a GM, but yes, it's a great question. Anyone want to take this one?
I mean, I can chime in. I've had similar challenges over the years, especially as a young leader when, people working with my age and they're all going out of work. Like, are you doing the club? And I'm like, no, because I know I'm not supposed to, right? And it's really hard if you're going out drinking with people or you're their best friend or the person that they call when something wrong is happening in their life. It's really hard to sit down and write that person up if they're late, right? And you've got to set yourself up to be able to bridge that gap where you're not having to make those objective decisions because you know this person for the subjective decision for what should be a very objective scenario. It's stay on their side, right? Continue to understand them and know what's going on in their lives, but maybe pull back a little bit if it's on, the social side of things and, stuff, making sure that the feedback you're giving, there is the positive feedback, right? But also hey, this is what you need to be working on, so they know that you're there to coach them and teach them and help build the business.
Agreed. I think also too is you're the mother. It's your baby, right? So hire a nanny, right? and that's your leadership, right? That's empowering your managers to be you, right? And then that kind of causes separation of you and your team always here. But I also think that in doing that, make sure that you do team building, which still brings that closeness, that bonding, that family together. And so now they know that, hey, I'm here, but I still understand you. I can still meet you right here. But I think having that nanny in place is an amazing thing because I'm really tight with my team. I breathe Nouveau. My team is my family for me. But I also put managers in place so that they can't just call me. There's a chain of command. You want to call your lead. And from your lead, you want to call your manager. From there, you want to call your director of operations. It's just making sure you have the right people in place at the right times. And I think that will help you with the separation of that.
Hey, congratulations. That's a great journey from GM to Fritz.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Very clear procedures, right? Whenever you're able to kind of clearing the slate and say, hey, this is the new procedure. Let's have a training. These are the standards, right? It's very black and white at that point too, and it's fair for everyone. That would be my recommendation. Thank you so much, everyone who's attended today. I would love to connect with you. I've got my card here. I know the team's got our cards. And if you'd like to see the slides, we'll be happy to send those as well. But thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your conference, and have a great day.
Let's follow the Zack's company. Let's look at the location.